Okay, so I will start with a short prayer that I was given when I asked for one because, I never really know how to pray. So finally, I just asked and said, could I please, can you just give me a prayer that I can utilize? And lo and behold, they gave me something that was very short, easy to remember, and sort of applicable for everything. So here we go. Jesus, I trust in you. Father, thy will be done. Amen. So let me say a little bit about how this came about for me. And the truth is, I think I found out it was actually a hoax that somebody started on Facebook. And what I read was that more and more people, more and more women exactly, were having problems with the masculine pronoun used in A Course in Miracles, father and brother. So what somebody wrote was that ACIM was coming out with a gender neutral Course in Miracles. I thought that was interesting. So I think I realized it was a hoax, but after I took it seriously. So I asked somebody who was coming out with it, what organization was coming out with this new course, because it said ACIM as the organization. And so I said, who is ACIM? And next thing I know, somebody really laughed at me. Now, I didn't know whether they were laughing at me because I didn't realize it was a hoax, or because they thought I didn't know what ACIM meant. So I wrote, I know what Course in Miracles is. I'm just wondering which organization is planning to put out this gender neutral edition. That was sort of the end of the conversation on Facebook. So I never found out anything, whether it was a hoax or not. But it was interesting to me because there's a couple of meetings I do during the day. At the end, someone says a prayer in one of them. And what they say all the time is, Mother, Father, God. So I got that some people, I don't necessarily know if it's a problem, but some people have a consideration based on being a female and a desire for God, or for themselves to be represented in God, or God to represent themselves. I don't really know. So I thought it would be a good idea to come together and hear what people had to say about it, especially people who may be offended that the female is left out of A Course in Miracles. So I wanted to hear from some women how they felt about it, and whether they're offended or not, just how they feel about the use of the masculine, father as God, and brothers as a term to describe all of us together. So that was, for me, the reason why I thought it might be good to have a get together and have a little discussion about this. The healing is in the joining. The healing is in releasing our concepts, releasing our identities, and coming together as one, because as one we can come to know the truth of who we are in reality. And to me, that's what the Course has been about. The willingness to know that we're not bodies, we are free, and we are still as God created us. And that requires the willingness to release our ideas. Now, ultimately, or eventually, all of them have to go. each of us has individual experiences of God, of reality, or miracles, and they come at times when we do decide to let go of our thoughts and ideas about something and see something differently. So here we are together, and so that was what I was interested in, joining with my brothers and sisters in that sense, and and hearing people's objections, if they had any, or just their ideas on, the use of the masculine from a feminine point of view. So I really am hoping that, some of you all will talk to me rather than just have me constantly talking about it. So Annie put the blurb together, and you want to say something now about it?
Well, I can talk about what we put on the blurb. Teddy's really mentioned that the language, and probably not even just the use of the masculine, at times other terms, people seem to have a problem with the terms that are used in A Course in Miracles. And it does seem like this masculine thing comes up a lot for some people. I've seen it myself mentioned. Why do they always say yes? Why do they always say he? Why do they use Christian language? That's another thing that comes up. Why do they use Christian language? I mean, I can talk about my own personal experience with that, which is, in a sense, I've identified as a woman in a certain, or a female in certain ways, but in another ways, I probably tried to belong to female groups and things like that. Well, not groups as such, but, say as part of my sojourn, when you, fully identified with the ego and, you're going into your causes. Oh, men are like this and women are like that. And of course, for me, when the Course in Miracles came along, well, not exactly the Course in Miracles, when I would probably call it my BCAD moment that was given, really that singular call that was given to me through a particular brother, awakened mind, then a lot of that just gets flushed down the toilet in one fell swoop. All that stuff is gone in a certain way, because now you have a whole new function and purpose that has got nothing to do with the world whatsoever. And you're really about undoing all your concepts about everything. So for me, as far as the language is concerned, I've never had a problem with it. I probably need to work on forgiving people that want to change it and change the language. Well, work on forgiveness. Just forgive them. Obviously, I think I have to work at it instead of just the willingness to forgive, and I'd forgive. But I kind of laugh at the whole idea that you would want to change the language at all. Like I said, I didn't really ever have an identification with trying to be a sisterhood or anything. I grew up in an area by the ocean. I spent a lot of my time hanging out with the surfers. We travelled, all year round looking for waves, you could say. And I swam a lot in the ocean. And I'd always go out the back. I didn't actually surf, but I'd go out the back and everyone would be waiting for the sets to come in. And there'd just be that quietude, just this sense of communion. And it was like everyone's waiting. Just that quiet pause. Everyone's there. It's almost like everyone was all in single purpose, just waiting. And for me, there's no way I would have thought of that in terms of gender. But if I did, it would be the brotherhood. And I'd be included in that brotherhood. Like, I don't think of myself, if I was using terms, I don't think of myself in a sisterhood. I think myself as part of the brotherhood. And that term brotherhood is wholly inclusive of everything. God is everything. I don't understand why I'd have to say God, Mother God, Father God, because if God is everything, it's totally inclusive. It's whole. It covers all bases. I don't need to kind of make sure I include everything, because the Father, the God, the source of all, is wholly inclusive. And what we are is beyond all ideas of gender anyway. So I find it sort of kind of funny when we're, trying to undo all those ideas that we want to change something in the course and try to fit it into some gender specific idea. I find that bizarre. Did you want to say something in response to what I said, Teddy?
I was thinking, the truth is, I'm looking around at people who are here, and, I hope that, the moment that you were talking about in the quietude, just sitting in the quiet with others who are also in that same state of mind and coming into that experience. And it is really an experience of something without opposite, whether you call it joy without opposite or love without opposite. That's the moment that we really are all looking for. And as you were saying, many of us have had it like Greg is having it. Many of us have had it with each other. And we continue to sort of look for each other to have that moment. Not because we can't have it with others, but because the ease with which it happens, because we recognize each other that way. And the more we recognize each other that way, the more that moment is easy to enter into. Because after a while, no words are required. There's no need to talk about anything because it bypasses the need. And I don't drink anymore, but, like if you go out to a bar and you meet people, you start to talk to them just to get to know them. And we talk about crazy stuff. We talk about anything that's of interest to anybody just in order to be friendly with each other and get to know each other. But in that quiet moment when minds join, we know each other perfectly well. We know each other and we experience the wholeness of who we are, because in that moment there is no separation. And separation is the only problem that we actually have here. So that's what I was thinking of when you were talking about that moment of quiet. And in a sense, this is an excuse for that moment of opportunity. This is just an excuse. And I can see people smiling and nodding their head when I say that. And in that smile and nod, when I say that, there's the recognition of the fact that they know that moment well themselves. It's an interesting experience, and it's one that we all seem to love and desire. But it's still true that I would like to hear from others about this. So I don't know who else is here. Anyone else would like to share from their perspective? I don't really need to do all the talking, nor do I want to.
I experienced something about on this topic like back in about 2015 when I used to go to a couple course meetings around here. I don't know if you know Sharon Wallace. She used to go to the academy. She used to hold course meetings around here. I used to go with my friend to the course meetings. This lady started showing up, and when he would start talking, for some reason she would start reacting to him, and the topic came up of why is the course always using the masculine as a symbol for God and everything, and we couldn't figure out why it was happening, and it was right around when that whole in the United States, when the whole, I don't know if you remember, the whole Me Too movement was going on and all that stuff. And my friend, for some reason, he always had this, I don't know if he had some kind of healing lesson that he had to do within him with women or something, because women would always like flip out on him, but like this particular woman was always coming at him at the meetings and kind of looking at him like he's sexist, and he had no sexist bone in his body. Like we're always like in the course, and we're always learning how we're not bodies, and like, well, why is this even happening in a course group? Because we're trying to undo our ideas and concepts about being a body. And here we have this, he had this woman that kept on attacking him about the whole masculine verbiage in the Course in Miracles. And every time we would walk out of the meeting, we would look at each other and just be like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is about a Course in Miracles. This is about undoing our ideas and concepts about who we are as a body and our identification here in this realm. And we couldn't make out why it's happening. So I found this topic pretty interesting when you said you were going to do this, because I kept on bringing me back to that situation in that particular moment. And I've heard it from a couple other people too, in a couple other rooms about that, Facebook threads about this particular subject. So it is pretty interesting. And I guess as far as my friend, I don't know if he had some kind of healing inside him that he had to work on with women. And same with this woman that kept on showing up. Maybe she had some healing inside her that had to do with men. I'm not sure exactly what the dynamic was. That was my experience with the whole thing about 5 years ago.
What I found interesting was I've been working on getting Helen's notes together, and I've been working with a graphic artist, graphic designer, whatever they're called. And we've been going through it. And yesterday we were reading the preface pages, and we mentioned brothers in it. And Toby said, he stopped for a minute. I said, oh, what's going on? And he said, well, brothers, isn't that like a bit sexist? And I sort of explained to him the whole thing, and he sort of got it right away. And I was just talking to Johnny, who I live with, who has no interest in spirituality whatsoever. And, we're about to do this meeting and talking to him about what it was about. And he immediately understood the whole idea of brotherhood and could see the whole, I'm going to say, nonsense in like the nonsense of having to try and make it sisterhood or mother God or something like that. But I was just thinking about, like, even in my own association, when you sort of say father, and we're becoming like little children in the kingdom. So we're like a little child in the kingdom that has to rely solely on his father, while we're in perception. In reality, none of this is so, but in perception, we're coming to rely solely on our father, solely on that source within. And that source is singular. It's not a dualistic thing. It's not a mother and a father. It's one parent. It's like a parent that is solely inclusive and takes care of all our needs. It's one thing. I take my father's hand and he leadeth me. I don't really need two parents, like on earth, we seem to have two parents because we're in that, we're in a split mind. We're in a mind of dualists. It's two things, mothers, fathers, black, white, up, down, cold, hot. But when we're becoming children or remembering we're a child of the spirit again, then we really only have one source. We don't have two sources. There's really only one source, and that's what we're relying on, that one source. So for me, I don't feel the need to split that, and it's really just, Father, here I am.
Thank you. I've not really had a problem with the masculine. I've got a Christian background before the course, so I think I'd never really thought, but I've been with people who have brought that up. I've been with a lot of people in different groups who always want to discuss everything. And I suppose my feeling is, my answer's always been, just do the course. Just do it. Let's stop talking about it. All of this discussion, is it a him or a her? For me, is just another distraction. Let's just do it. Just do the lessons. I've been very interested. It's been lovely hearing James talk about Mary and that. But what I love about Mary is, let it be according to thy word. That surrender again. Thy will be done. No, I've not had a problem. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that Jesus says in the Course is, this Course will be believed in its entirety or not at all. And it's more about acceptance of what it's saying. There was a comment when I posted, the blurb about what we were going to do. Somebody commented, well, why are you even discussing this stuff at all? The idea is to let go of all this stuff. And the truth is, one of the things that I said was, it's a good way, it's just a good way for people to come together, to join with each other, to use the concepts to let go of so that we can join with each other. Who knows who's going to come? But it's at this point in time and what's going on in the world, I think it's incredible that we have this thing called Zoom that allows us to join with people from all around the world. Whereas, like Kevin was talking, everybody had these little course groups that were in their own neighborhoods and was limited, to people in a locality. Here we are, we have the Zoom group where people can join from anywhere in the world, and we can use anything to come together, to release our minds, and to recognize who we are in reality and remind each other, which is the big thing for me. Just the willingness to help each other remember, because so much of the course is about remembering. It's that we've forgotten who we are, not that we don't know who we are. It's that we know somewhere deep inside of us who we are, who we have always been, but we've just forgotten. And here we come together to help us all remember. And to me, that's the benefit of a tool that was made for separation, and how the Holy Spirit can use anything to bring people together to help them remember.
The great thing is we've got this course. We've got a course that reminds us we only really have one problem, and it's not with the language.
Hi. So I've never really had an issue with male or female. That's not my concern. But what I have found to be very difficult is this idea of trusting my father, with a capital F, because when my parents got divorced when I was young, I saw that as a rejection. And there's a big wound there. And so I find that I have this concept of father being separate from me. And so it is a journey for me coming to accept that it's not, like the father as I understand it to be, like my dad, basically. Yeah, so there has been a block where it does feel like there's a specialness, like there's a definite specialness, and that all needs to be forgiven. And so sometimes, even the word God, I have this image of like my dad kind of trying to let that go. So in and of itself, I don't have an issue with the language, but it's my association with it that has been a block in trusting. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Well, the truth is that it's never the language. It is, like you're saying, our association with the language. It's what we think about what we're hearing. It's not what is actually written in the book. It is the association that we have with the words or with anything we see. And that is what brings up the problem. Another thing, I find that, I don't know how to say this, but for some reason, if I step back and let him lead the way, all kinds of things begin to happen. And this is an example. Having decided to have this session and having, broadcast it. So one of the things that happens is when I step back and let the Holy Spirit lead the way, all kinds of things come up to help me to remember and lead the way. And so one of the things that I found, incredible was yesterday when I was posting this around on Facebook, all of a sudden, a Facebook friend of mine named Lloyd comes up with a post that was from DU, Disappearance of the Universe. You want to read that, Annie, the way it's written? So he posted this, and it was exactly to the point of what we've been talking about. It's one of those heavenly divine coincidences or divine synchronicities that show you, to me, the validity of what we're doing and the reflection of the fact that it's okay to be doing it. So you want to read that?
Yeah, so the post was from Disappearance of the Universe, and it's just when Arten and Purser appeared at Gary. I'm assuming most people here are familiar with that story. So they say to him, "We're appearing to you as symbols whose words will help facilitate the disappearance of the universe." I say we are symbols because anything that appears to take on a form is symbolic. The only true reality is God or pure spirit, which in heaven are synonymous. And God and pure spirit have no form. Thus, there is no concept of male or female in heaven. Any form, including your own body, that is experienced in the false universe of perception must, by definition, be symbolic of something else. That is the real meaning of the second commandment, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image." Most biblical scholars have always considered that particular commandment to be a mystery. Why would God not want you to make any images of him? Moses thought the idea was to get rid of pagan idolatry. The real meaning is that you shouldn't make up any images of God because God has no image. That idea is central to what we'll be telling you later.
So, I read that and I said, well, there's the whole answer. What else is there need to be said, actually? But the idea that it showed up at the time that it did was just one of those divine synchronicities as a demonstration of the fact that I'm not alone. I'm not alone, and something is actually leading our way. And just for the showing up of that, I'm just grateful. I guess I never really had a problem. And it's not that I actually understood the idea of why or the feminine wasn't used in the course. But I did understand from the experience that I had prior to the course why it didn't make any difference, because when we had the experience, we're beyond the idea of form entirely. We're beyond the idea of separate identities entirely. And who we are in reality, because it's eternal, actually allows all of this to be the illusion that it is. Because what isn't eternal isn't true. And so anything illusory, anything of time, is not eternal. And we are what eternal is. And that is our reality. That is who we are as one with each other, as we are one in God, and as God is one in us. I'm just really grateful for the idea that we have the, I guess what it's called in the course is our last communication link with reality is the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit was designed for us to be able to never lose our connection with our Father and with our brothers, or whatever we want to call each other, with who we are in reality. So I'm just grateful that we don't need to forget, we can remember. And when we have that experience, the experience being eternal, so it takes precedent over the temporal nature of what goes on in space-time. So who else, Annie?
Ruxa was next, and then Alice will go to you, Del.
Very good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Everyone. I had 2 points that when Annie was reading came in my mind, that in the Bible, God created Adam and Eve, and there was no separation. When the Eve took the apples, so she ate the fruit of the good and the bad, so the judgment, they became ashamed and they covered themselves. So the point is not being female or male, it's thinking that you are different, and that sense of guilt, you parade it outside and come the judgment and the shame. So that was one. And the second was, I had a problem with the course. It's the first time that I'm reading. I'm lesson 57, and I read even the text. And to the beginning was very difficult for me, not with the father, but with the brotherhood. Not with the father, because for me was very clear, because in psychology, a child to grow up, he has 2 principles, the maternal principle with the mother and the father principle. The mother is the caring, the emotion part is the holding, but the father principle is the one who gives the guidance, who's the one who creates the value, who's the one who shows the child the path, who give a purpose. So how is God presented in the course was absolutely in the line with my image about the father function. I had this problem with the brotherhood and sisterhood, and at the beginning I was reading not only brother but sister, and I stopped and I said, why I have this problem? Why I can't say brother and take it neutral, no, not take it personal gender. And I realized that it's not about the gender, even if I grew up in communist Romania. When communists go down, I made the organization for the anti-communist woman student, girl students, so not boys, girls. So I have a background to fight for the women rights. But wasn't this problem? Was another problem was that I couldn't understand the text. So I was angry with the text because I think that I wasn't intelligent enough, or I'm not brave enough to understand. And so I put it on the gender, because it's easier to think that it's more difficult to think that you are stupid. It's easier to think that because you're a woman, the things are not okay. And after I asked myself why the course is right like this. So it's not, I don't think the purpose of Jesus is to give problem to the students and to make them difficult for them. And my explanation that made me piece of the course after was all a joy to reading every day. It was that the course is right like this because egos speak to us and perceive the reality with the logic mind. So if Jesus would speak to the logic mind, will be very easy to confuse with ego message. But because all what he's saying there has no logic, because it's speaking paradox and in contrast all the time, trick that logic mind and reveal something else. You have to do the text. You have to do the text, and somewhere, some point, something comes. And how you said, Teddy, this synchronicity. So I'm on the lesson and I look to the television to see a film and it speak about that, and I hear a song where are that words, or open a book or read the comments or post in Facebook. I don't read all of them, and they are speaking about what is my lesson that day. So that is thing for me. It's wonderful. Thank you.
I just want to say something. Where did you say you're from? Romania?
Yeah, I was born in Romania and I live 25 years in Italy, and now I changed my life after 25 years. Now I'm living in Spain.
There's a line in the Course where Jesus talks about the language that he uses. And he said something to the effect of, and he uses words very specifically to convey his message. so that it cannot be confused. And the idea that he says that is his recognition that we can be confused, and that we will get confused. And he's trying his hardest for us not to. But as I was saying before, Roxandra, you are a perfect example of the reason why I find this Zoom to be so incredible. Here we are, there are people from all around the world, literally here, joining together with a single purpose. So who is up next?
Okay. Well, you were talking about the image that was talked about in Disappearance of the Universe, and love does not have an image. When I was keep listening to what you were saying, what kind of image does love have? And love is everything. And our souls don't have a gender. And I've been writing for the last year this book with Mary Magdalene, and she goes beyond the feminine, and together the Jesus and Mary Magdalene were trying to heal this. I believe they were trying to heal this with the Divine Mother as well, and the anger or the personalization of it all, it doesn't matter. And in fact, it's a diversion, as Margaret was saying. It's a diversion from the essence. And I know when I'm diverted, it's my ego that's diverting me. I'm going to go straight to the mark, straight to the mark. And the mark has not got a feminine or a masculine. It's not got opposites. It's just love. And everything falls away around that, just everything. And we've had a lot of, quite a few years of having course groups in our home. And some people have had a lot of difficulty with the masculine and feminine side of the masculinity of the course, and also the wording and the Christianity and the words of that. But I've always said, can you drop the personal in it? Just drop the personal associations. And if we drop the personal associations in anything, something opens up. And that opening up is like the open-mindedness. That's one of the attributes of a teacher of God. We're our own teacher, really. It's all inside of us. But, it really is an open-minded. There's nothing more open-minded than the divine. And I say the divine, and I don't use the word Father, Mother, God, or whatever. And I just looked up the word brotherhood in Google, and it used the word fellowship. And that's an interesting word, and you come together as a brotherhood or in fellowship for a purpose. And what are we coming together for? To take away the blocks in the way of love. To take away the blocks in the way of love. And as we look at each other here today, that's all that matters. So that's what I wanted to share.
Alice, I've got to say that idea of the fellowship, that's a fantastic definition for it, because for me, that fellowship, it really conjures up the sense of communion. It's like, we're all holding hands together. We're in fellowship. We're in communion together. It's like an action too. It's not just a noun in a sense. I've got that quote for you, Teddy, about Jesus using the words. He says, I have made every effort to use words that are almost impossible to distort. But man is very inventive when it comes to twisting symbols around.
When Alice was just speaking, and I love the word fellowship, it really puts it together in the right way. When people come together for any reason, it's really in the joining, it's really in the fellowship and feeling part of no matter what's going on. Many of you know this. One of the words that was edited out of A Course in Miracles in the edition published by the Foundation for Inner Peace is the word soul. Jesus used the word soul over 200 times with Helen and Bill. It was left, if you in the notes, and this is, I think, part of the reason why Jesus is asked to make these notes available, Helen's notes available. And I have an interesting story about that as well. Something happened yesterday with Vicky's sister, who's not a course student at all. And she heard me reading from the notes yesterday, and all of a sudden she got it. It was clear to her. All of a sudden she got what the course was saying. And it was because it was the unedited words of Jesus directly to Helen, and the clarity with which he speaks and how he addresses everything. When Ken Wapnick came along, after Bill Thetford had edited the notes, there was a particular relationship that went on between Helen and Ken, because Helen didn't have any children and Ken had a not so great relationship with his mother. So they became sort of a team and provided, became sort of like Helen's child, and Helen became the mother that Ken never had. And they took years. He took years to edit the course. He would go to Helen's house every night, sit there and edit, and she fell asleep on the couch. One of the things that he edited out was the term soul. He said in his preface to the course, I believe it was, that the term soul was not used except in direct biblical quotations because it was too controversial. Now, the only person it could be controversial to was him, because it certainly wasn't controversial to Jesus, Helen, or Bill, since Bill actually left it in the course. So I was sued by the foundation for a copyright violation. We actually won the suit. In Australia, they withdrew their suit after we had won it in the United States. I had no idea, actually, why it was me who was sued, because I actually didn't do the things that I was being sued for. So it was interesting. We prevailed in the case, and so the copyright fell. Jesus said to me, I want you to put Bill's edit out. I want you to put Bill's edition of the course out in print in a book and put the term soul back in it. Make sure soul was back in it. And so we did that in Australia, and then I did it here in the United States, and I set up a foundation, and I give them away. Because to me, what the Course says is true. Protect everything you value by the act of giving it away.
Just for the record, Teddy didn't receive that guidance alone. There was 3 people in Australia that at the same time received the very same guidance through Jesus to publish this version of A Course in Miracles that came from Bill's original edit. They received that guidance while they were in Australia and Teddy was in the US. All of them received the same guidance at exactly the same time. And the book was originally published in Australia through what was set up by one of the members of the Miracle Centre and distributed through the Thetford Foundation.
The Course, to me, is probably one of the most valuable things in this world. It saved my life, gave me everything I needed to understand who I am after experiences that I had that were literally unexplainable in this world. So it was important for me to set up a foundation to make this available as Jesus wanted it. And it was Bill's edit with the word soul put back in it. And one of the things that Jesus says that was edited out, and this amazed me when we went through it, one of the things Jesus said that was edited out of the course was a phrase that he used, and he said, "You are soul. Your only reality is soul." Period. That was it. Now, how that was edited out of the course was amazing to me, since it was such a definitive statement of who we are as God created us. So the term soul became important to me as I understood, or as I was shown what soul is. As soul, we are a unit of God creating. Like God only gives, God creates. We were created to receive and then give. So we were created to create as God creates. As soul, we are a unit. Each one of us is a unit of God created to create as God creates. And what God creates is love, as Alice said. So we are extensions of love. As soul, we are extensions of love designed to extend the love of God. And that's our reality, and that's our function. I'm really grateful that you guys are here and have the ability to express things. Kim?
I heard Teddy mention this fact on another talk I heard about the word soul being taken out, and I was horrified. I thought, what the? I couldn't believe my ears. And so I've got a Course in Miracles. It's called Original Edition Text, Course in Miracles Society. Is that the one Teddy's? But that's got the word soul in it.
Yeah, it is from Bill's edit, Kim, but it's not the one Teddy and the guys in Australia put together. But it did go back after the copyright was released. They printed that one from the CMS. That was after there was the ruling on the copyright, and they did that afterwards, after the Sparkly and the court case was decided on. And both Robert Perry's version and that CMS one do have more towards Bill's edit and the original.
So what is the best one to actually have and study?
The one you're really guided to. If you get guidance about
okay, of course, yeah.
Use the one you're guided to. If you're determined to see and vision is what you really want, it won't really matter, because it's really desire for the kingdom that returns us, and our willingness to forgive that brings the experience that aligns us with, that the course is pointing to. So in that sense, there's people doing the course that never need a Course in Miracles, because their true desire is for the experience, and their true desire of their heart is for the learning. So, I run into people that they've never even had outer symbols, like an outer teacher or an outer book. It's all been through inner guidance, the whole of the ego thought system. And, she calls it dismantling of the ego. And that's all come through the inner teacher in some people. So it's really our desire. So it really won't matter what version, but we will be guided to ones. We are given the symbols that are most helpful for us at any point in time. And for some, it will really be important that they have, say, the original version, because that I was shown, like, that term, different symbols open the minds of different
Yeah.
minds. And so some will hear soul and that will open their mind to the memory, whereas
Oh, right.
others
Okay.
might not need
Yeah.
to, you know. So it's like there's that lesson, if everyone's familiar with, and Ken's edit says, would I accuse myself of this in this particular lesson? I can't remember what lesson it is. And I always go, yes, I would. I am. So it left me nowhere to go, right? I'd always just go, yes, I would accuse myself of that. I am accusing myself of that. And we were reading it out loud because we do a morning meeting, and one of the other members was reading it from the Sparkly edition, which was the one that was put out through that Teddy and these other brothers were guided to put out. And she said, oh, it says, should I accuse myself in the Sparkly? And I went, holy fuck, like, you know, just that one little word, just, it was like, bam, it had the whole problem and solution wrapped up in one little tiny word. And even the other day we were reading, I was doing this prayer loop. A friend reads out the lesson, you know, we're doing those later ones, just reads out the lesson. I was doing a prayer loop, so you could just, I was recording him just reading it, so you could sort of just listen to it and let you wash through your mind over and over. And he read from the Blue Book, I give my life to God to guide today. That's what he said. I was making my little video and I thought I better check the title, and I opened the Sparkly and it says, I give my life to God to run today. And I'm like, is that right? You know, has the Sparkly got it right? Is that right in that one? And then all of a sudden, again, I saw the difference that one little word made when I went, I'm giving it to him to run today. And like everyone I was talked to about that, immediately they could see and hear the difference between even just saying that one little word, I give him to guide, but to run was like this whole other thing. Some of us, like, it really won't make any difference, you know, in a sense. But for some of us, those little things, somehow it tweaks something in our mind. It's just like we have brothers that might express this in one way, and some people will go, oh, that was amazing, I just heard everything, and you'll be going, what the fuck, you know? But then you hear it from someone else, you hear it, a brother expresses it in a certain way, somehow the way we're constructed, it opens, it's like the key. So it's almost different strokes for different folks. I don't know.
Well, I guess that's one of the difficulties with language, because it is symbolic, and it just depends on the person, like everything. It's interesting.
Yeah, but it all points to the experience, like, you know, when the language is let go and the mind opens. That us entering into that.
But also I was thinking, well, if he tampered with the word soul, what did he replace that word with?
Spirit, which was
that's what I was thinking
thing, because we were reading the book side by side, and again, I would never have noticed this, but we were reading it side by side. Like one of us was reading it out of the Blue Book in our meeting, and we were reading from Barclay. And it actually makes, because he changed it, it actually makes Jesus contradict himself, which Jesus never contradicts himself. Side by side.
I don't like that.
He makes Jesus contradict, because Jesus talks about the different functions, like of the soul and spirit, like that they have different abilities. They have different abilities because the soul never enters in perception. It never sees. Whereas the Holy Spirit being given as answer to the thought of separation, it has the ability to see illusions but remember the truth, and which the soul doesn't have that same ability. And somewhere along the line in the first few chapters, when Jesus says all that and the replacement of that word with spirit, it actually makes Jesus contradict himself, because it gives one of them an ability or function that it doesn't have or something. I can't remember it exactly, but it would, like, I would never have noticed it except we were reading it side by side. So we can thank Ken for helping us learn by contrast as
It's that whole idea of changing something that someone's put out in a deliberate way. Like a while ago, I used to read Enid Blyton's, The Enchanted, what is it? The Enchanted Forest or something?
Yeah, The Enchanted.
And there's certain characters in there, Fanny and somebody else. And not long ago, I picked up a new copy in a bookstore and I just opened it and they've changed the names because they didn't like Dick and they didn't like Fanny as children's names. And they've actually brought out, reprinted it with different names, and I just couldn't believe it. I thought, what? Like, that was written in a certain era, a certain time, and those names were fine. Like, I just don't understand the concept of changing something to fit a different time, because it was written in a way for a purpose in the time it was written. So I would hate to think that, in another 100 years, like, they bring out, the original versions of the course disappear. Like that, it wouldn't surprise me if sometime in the so-called future that happened, because this is the way it goes, isn't it? In this world, things get changed to suit, suit what's happening at the time.
That was why the Facebook post was interesting to me, because all of a sudden I was being told that an edition was coming out, the gender neutral. I was just amazed who would do it, but that was actually my thought. Eventually, people can change it to anything they want because that's the way they hear it, rather than to use it for the purpose of opening our minds in order for us to get guidance from the Holy Spirit as what everything is. Because the truth is, what the Course keeps on saying is, you don't know. You don't know. In the condition that we're in, the condition of perception is one of projection. And we project from our minds what we think is going on. And so three people can look at the very same scene and see three different things. So three people could read the same line in the Course and see three different things, and each could interpret it the way they want and then change the line to their interpretation as they hear him. When Jesus says, I make every effort to use language in such a way that it can't be misunderstood or misinterpreted. He wants
it's
it out.
virtually an impossibility, isn't it?
It's sort of like as soon as it enters time and space, it's going to get co-opted.
Yeah. And it's amazing because if everything's subject to, the ego's interpretation, then no two people can actually see the world the same at all. Not exactly the same. It'll be different for every individual perception, isn't it?
Right.
It's a wonder we can agree on anything at all. Like, I'm always amazed at how people can actually agree. Well, we can't see anything exactly the same way. With my ex-partner, the father of my children, this was going years back, and I could never understand, hey, but that didn't happen. What didn't happen like that? It took me a long time to realise that he saw it differently to me. Like, there are factual things that happen, but even that is actually not true, is it? Because someone will see a so-called fact this way, and then it's seen a different way. So facts can't even be right, so-called facts. So it took me a very long time to realise, oh, my God, I was arguing. I just nearly went crazy in my mind because I couldn't figure out how come he's lying so much about everything. I have to laugh now because it's just, I understand what was going on, but so many years later, yeah.
Like Jesus says, only reality can be known. Everything in perception can be interpreted. So that's why we can only really share the thoughts we think with God, which bring love and peace, and join those thoughts of love and peace. Only those unify. Only the thoughts we think with God can unify, and a true perception where we see
Yeah.
from our innocence, when we remember who our brother is, and that's reinforcing the truth in us, and it's beyond interpretation. Then there's no interpretive value.
Yeah.
Direct.
Yeah.
We see.
What a nightmare. What a nightmare, the interpretive world. It's a nightmare. You can't make sense of anything, really. It's funny because I work in a law firm and it's all about interpretation of the law, and I don't know, I just don't know how they can decide on anything.
One of the things that Jesus says in the Course is that it's our purpose that gives us our interpretation. So depending on what our purpose is, we all have different interpretations. And what the Course is giving us is a single purpose for the world, a place where we come having denied our reality. And we can use it through forgiveness to regain our understanding of who we are in reality. So the purpose of the world, in that sense, becomes a place of forgiveness of everything we see in order for us to see differently in its entirety. And the Holy Spirit is the vehicle that helps us see differently. And what he helps us see is the truth of who we are, as we all are in reality. And that's where the term, in a sense, soul made so much sense to me. We are all souls and a soul is a unit of God creating. Soul is what we are. It's our only reality. It is not of this world. It's been, when Jesus came to me and showed me what I am as a soul, one of the things he did was he showed me, it was just this brightness. And he showed me, it was like there was a piece of a very thin paper over the top of my soul. And what he showed me was that nothing could touch it. It was perfect as God created it. It could not change. It could not be affected. And that's what I really am. That's my reality. And the Course is designed to help us use the world in a particular way through forgiveness, so as we can remember who we are as a soul. We can remember our reality in the kingdom, because the nature of what we did, our denial of God, caused a split in our minds, and that is the dualistic nature of the world that we see. Anything can be seen in two ways, depending on which side of the split you decide to look at it with. And when our mind is whole, go ahead.
I came across the Course only about 4 years ago, but I realise now, it gives you that true purpose, doesn't it? Like it's like you search your whole life for your purpose, and then you realise, I hadn't really realised until this moment, but that is the real purpose. It's such a relief, isn't it? It's such a relief to realise it's not about what you do in the world at all.
Right. I think, who was it that said it? Was like, I don't know, thousands of years ago. Our purpose is to know ourselves. Our purpose is to know ourselves. And the Course is designed to help us know ourselves as we are created, not as we are in this world of space and time. Because that's temporal. Who we are is eternal. The temporal will never satisfy us. It's always changing. Therefore, our relationship to it is always changing. And if we have a purpose, as the world changes, we see things differently. So we never really get to fulfill that purpose, as everything's always changing. And our purpose changes with it. When we have a true purpose that is not of this world, we can use the world to remember who we are in reality and know ourselves as true and with the purpose of being a soul and being a unit of God creating. We were created to create as God created us. And we can come to know that and extend the love that we are even here.
Mm. So the word soul is sort of a unit of soul. Like, I know we're not really individual, but it gives a sense of,
Right.
yeah, that you are, you know, that individuality, but with nothing to
Exactly.
not to do with the personality, but yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
It gives us, you know, each one of us is soul. So it
yes,
gives us an individuality as soul, which
yes.
allows us to learn our purpose here and to express it that we're given it exactly as we are.
Okay, yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, beautiful. Mm.
So we can use the tools that we're given, even as an identity, when we know ourselves as a soul, and express with what we're given here um, who we are as we extend the love that we are, as the soul we are created to be in reality. So that's when, you know, when I asked, how do I talk about the term soul? It's a unit of God creating. We are all units of God, and as in God, we are one, and God is one in us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, why don't we just take it's 8:26 till 8:30, and we'll sit here in quiet for a moment, and then we'll be done for the day. So I just wanted to say one other thing. You know, we're getting ready to, if I could raise the money, we're getting ready to reprint the Sparkly edition, as well as I was asked to print Helen's notes. So Annie's working on getting Helen's notes together to put them in a book as well. However, if anyone would like to read them, the PDF is available. So anyone who wants a PDF of either the Sparkly or Helen's notes, just somehow get in touch with either Annie or I, and we'll send you, we can email you a copy of the PDF of Helen's original notes, as well as the Sparkly edition of A Course in Miracles. So please feel free to do that. I was asked to make them available. So we have a foundation. It's called the Borderland, and we make those available freely. So if anybody is interested, please contact us, and you can have them. Thank you.
I wanted to say that I looked in internet. I wanted to buy the Sparkly edition. Cost $54, and to send it in Europe, another $90.
Yeah, because it's out of print at the moment, they're putting ridiculous. There was one for sale on Amazon for $760. I contacted the seller and said, this is not in line with the publisher's vision. We want to make them as cheap as possible. Please, this is unacceptable. You're charging this much. And it came down to $40, but US. So we are endeavouring to get them printed. It's just taking a little bit of time getting the files together. But as soon as they are, hopefully they will be a reasonable price. Hopefully we'll be able to give away as many as we can, be able to give them to people who really don't have the money to. So anyone that can afford it, if they can pay it'll help us keep them available. With the Borderland, it's set up as a charity, so it will go into that and help keep the reprint going once we get this next reprint done.
That Jesus says in the Course is protect everything you value by the act of giving it away. And I'm just really grateful for everything he's done for me. And the least I could do for him was put the book out the way he wanted it to be. And so he's asked me this time to make the Sparkly available, as well as Helen's notes. And, just like the experience that I had yesterday with Vicky's sister Noreen, when we read the notes and what she said about them, it just shows me the value of them being put out. And also what Jim is saying too, about the notes have been a game changer. Thanks for putting them out. When people read them, it changes their mind entirely, because it really is a conversation between Helen and Jesus. It's not a book that's been edited. It's a conversation between two people. And Helen, there's times when Helen absolutely resists everything that Jesus is saying and tries to prove him wrong. But Jesus never gives up and never treats her as anything other than a friend. And the love that he treats her with, and the way he talks to her, it's just incredible to read. That's all I can say. He's asked us to make them available, and so we do. And right now, as I said, we have the PDFs are available to anybody who wants them. And eventually, as I say, if I can put the money together somehow, They will be printed up, and they'll be given away as we give everything away. So just want to say thank you for everybody for showing up today. Thank you.
I feel like we should do one of Kate's Christ blessings where we go around, look at each other, and Kate finishes off and she says, what does she say? Who goes to Kate's thing? She says, I love you, I honor you, I bless you. I see the light in you. And we just go around and look at everyone one by one. You can turn your videos on. If you haven't got them on, that's up to you. You can say out loud. Everyone turn their mics. Unmute. That's what the word is, isn't it? Unmute. Just go around and look at everyone one by one. I love you.
I love you.
Bless you. I honor you.
I bless you.
I
I bless
you.
you.
I bless you.
I see the light in you.
I see the light in you.
I see the light in you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see you.
Thank you.
Love to all. Thank you.